The stars had always been silent to the Galactic Council. For 12,000 years, they mapped every peaceful species across 700 systems. Their civilizations grew on gentle worlds where the sun shone warm and the rain fell soft. None of them knew war. None of them understood predators. Commander Zethara stood on the bridge of the harmonious dawn, watching the blue planet grow larger on the viewing screen. Earth, they called it. The signals from this world had reached Council space 3 years ago. Mathematical formulas, pictures of their cities, music that seemed cheerful enough. The Council had sent Zethara and his diplomatic team to welcome another species into the galactic community. Zethara was a Velkan, tall and slender with skin that shimmered like pearl. His people evolved on a world where the largest animal was the size of a human child. His ancestors ate fruits and leaves. They learned to talk because cooperation meant survival. Fighting meant death for everyone involved. This philosophy spread across all Council species. Peace was not just preferred. It was the only logical choice. The science officer approached him with a datapad. Her name was Mira, and her 3 eyes showed concern. She was from the Kik species, small beings who lived in massive family groups. Like all Council species, her people never developed weapons beyond simple tools for building. "Commander, you need to see this," Mira said quietly. Zethara took the pad and began reading. His translator chip worked perfectly with human languages. The xenobiology team had been studying Earth broadcasts for weeks. What they found made his blood run cold. Earth's gravity was twice what most Council worlds considered normal. The planet experienced violent storms that could level cities. Earthquakes split the ground open. Volcanoes turned day into night. The oceans could rise up in massive walls of water that destroyed everything in their path. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the life that evolved there. Everything on Earth seemed designed to kill something else. The oceans had creatures with thousands of teeth. The land had animals that hunted in packs. Even the plants had thorns and poisons. The entire planet was what Council scientists called a deathworld, and humans sat at the top of this nightmare food chain. "They are persistence hunters," Mira explained, her voice shaking. Their ancestors chased prey animals until those animals collapsed from exhaustion. They have forward-facing eyes like ambush predators. Their hands are designed to grip weapons. They sweat to cool down during long hunts. They can run for hours without stopping. Zethara felt his legs weaken. He sat down in his command chair and continued reading. Humans had teeth designed to tear meat. They could eat plants too, which made them even more dangerous. Omnivores, flexible, adaptable. Their history was filled with wars, thousands of years of organized violence. They invented weapons that could destroy their entire planet. "Should we turn back?" Mira asked. Zethara considered it. But the Council had already sent messages to Earth. The humans knew they were coming. Turning back now might provoke them. He did not want to provoke apex predators who had nuclear weapons and faster-than-light communication. "No," he said finally. "We proceed, but carefully." Halfway across the solar system, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the USS Vigilance. The ship was humanity's newest diplomatic vessel, though it still carried enough weapons to level a small moon. Old habits died hard. Jake was 42 years old with graying hair and the kind of calm demeanor that came from 20 years in Earth's space fleet. He had served during the colony wars when human factions fought over Mars and the asteroid belt. Those conflicts ended 15 years ago, but the ship still carried their weapons, just in case. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel," said Chris Hayes from the communication station. Chris was young, barely 25, with red hair and an eager smile. This was his first real diplomatic mission. "Put it through," Jake said. The main screen shifted to show Commander Zethara. Jake kept his face neutral, but inside he felt a moment of wonder. An actual alien. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. "Greetings," Zethara said through his translator. "I am Commander Zethara of the Galactic Council ship Harmonious Dawn. We come in peace to welcome humanity to the greater galactic community." Jake smiled. "Greetings, Commander. I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Vigilance. We're honored to meet you. Admiral Lisa Grant sends her welcome from Earth Defense Command." The conversation continued smoothly. They agreed to meet in person at a neutral location near Mars. Jake could see that Zethara seemed nervous, but he figured that was normal for first contact situations. What Jake did not know was that Zethara was terrified. Ben Carter stood at the tactical station, monitoring the alien ship. Ben was Jake's oldest friend, a stocky man with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had fought beside Jake during the colony wars. Their ship has minimal weapons, Ben reported. Energy shields are strong, but their offensive capabilities are almost non-existent. I don't think they're designed for combat at all. Makes sense for a diplomatic vessel, Jake replied. No, sir. I mean their entire technology base. I've been analyzing their systems. Everything is designed for defense and evasion. It's like they never developed real weapons. Jake found that strange but did not dwell on it. Maybe these aliens were just more peaceful than humans. That would be refreshing. The meeting took place aboard a council shuttle that docked with the Vigilance. Jake brought Ben and Chris along with Dr. Amy Walsh, the ship's chief engineer. Amy was a brilliant woman in her 30s with blonde hair usually tied back in a practical ponytail. She wanted to see alien technology up close. When the airlock opened, Jake got his first real look at the council delegates. Zathara was accompanied by Mira and 2 other aliens from different species. One looked like a walking flower. The other resembled a 6-legged seal. They were beautiful in their own way. Graceful, gentle. They moved carefully, as if afraid of breaking something. Jake noticed they all stayed far back from the humans, keeping maximum distance in the small shuttle. "Welcome aboard," Jake said warmly, extending his hand. Zathara stared at the offered hand for a long moment before carefully reaching out to touch it. His skin was cool and smooth. The handshake lasted only a second before he pulled away. The tour of the Vigilance went well at first. Jake showed them the diplomatic conference rooms, the common areas, the observation deck with its stunning view of Mars. The aliens seemed fascinated by everything but maintained their distance. Then they reached the recreation room. A group of off-duty crew members were watching an old football game on the large screen. The sound of the tackle echoed through the room. All 4 aliens froze. Their faces showed pure horror. "What is that?" Zathara asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Oh, that's just football," Chris explained cheerfully. "It's a sport. For fun, Mira repeated. "They are attacking each other for fun?" "Well, it's not real fighting," Amy said. "There are rules. It's competitive, but nobody gets seriously hurt usually." The flower-like alien made a sound that the translator could not process. The seal creature backed away until it pressed against the wall. Jake realized they had made a serious mistake. "Commander, perhaps we should continue the tour." But the damage was done. That night, after the council delegation returned to their ship, Zathara sat in his quarters composing a message to the council. His hands shook as he typed. "We have made contact with apex predators. They are intelligent and communicate well, but they are fundamentally different from any species we have encountered. They engage in ritualized combat for entertainment. Their world shaped them into hunters. Their entire culture reflects predatory thinking. They compete constantly. They measure success through conflict and victory. Request immediate guidance from council leadership. Recommend extreme caution in all future dealings. These humans are dangerous." He attached all the data Mira had collected: video of human sports, clips from human entertainment that showed violence as heroic, historical records of human wars, documentation of Earth's hostile environment, analysis of human physical capabilities. The message traveled through quantum communication arrays, reaching the council homeworld in hours. When the council members read it, panic spread through their chambers like wildfire. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Council feared another species. Aboard the Vigilance, Jake sat in his quarters reading reports from the diplomatic meeting. Chris had noted the aliens seemed frightened. Amy observed they avoided physical proximity. Ben mentioned their shock at seeing simple human entertainment. Jake pulled up information about council species. Every single one came from gentle worlds. Low gravity, mild weather, herbivorous evolution. No natural predators in their ecosystems, he finally understood. To them, humans were monsters. Earth was hell. Everything humans considered normal was nightmare fuel to species who had never known violence. Jake wrote his own report to Admiral Grant. First contact successful but complicated. Council species fundamentally different psychology. They seem afraid of us. Recommend cultural sensitivity training for all personnel. We need to show them humans can be peaceful. This could get difficult. He had no idea how difficult it would actually become. The council chambers on Sanctuary Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 400 species filled the massive hall, all talking at once. Their translators created a symphony of panic that echoed off the crystal walls. At the center podium stood High Chancellor Vornal, a elderly Kix whose family had served the council for 8 generations. He raised his primary arms for silence. It took several minutes for the noise to fade. When he finally spoke, his voice carried across the chamber through quantum amplifiers. We have all seen the reports from Commander Zethara. The question before us is simple. What do we do about the humans? A representative from the Helian species stood. She was tall and thin with skin that glowed faintly blue. We should quarantine their system immediately. Seal off all jump routes leading to Earth. Contain them before they spread. They already have faster-than-light travel. Another voice called out. We cannot contain them unless we use force. Then we use force, said a Velkan military advisor. We mobilize the enforcement fleet, 3,000 ships. They will surrender when they see our numbers. Vornal considered this. The enforcement fleet had kept peace for 5,000 years, but it had never actually fought a war. It did not need to. The sight of 3,000 vessels was enough to make any dispute end peacefully. Show of force, not actual violence. That was the council way. Are we certain this is necessary? Asked a small voice from the back. A Kix scientist named Raylan pushed forward. Perhaps we are overreacting. The humans have been peaceful in all communications. They attack each other for entertainment, someone shouted. They glorify violence in their media. Their entire planet is designed to kill them. And they thrive there. These are not beings who understand peace. Mira stepped forward. She had traveled with Zethara and seen humans firsthand. The council had requested her direct testimony. I have analyzed human psychology extensively, she said, her 3 eyes scanning the assembly. They are predators, yes, but they are also social. They form strong pack bonds. They care for their weak. They create art and music. They are not mindless killers. But they can be killers, Vornal said quietly. That is the issue. In 12,000 years, we have built a civilization on the principle that violence is never the answer. We do not have weapons of war because we do not need them. But humans do. They made weapons before they made peace. That makes them fundamentally incompatible with our society. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Vornal called for a vote. The resolution was clear. The enforcement fleet would mobilize. They would travel to Earth's system and deliver an ultimatum. Humans must surrender all military capabilities and accept council oversight. If they refused, the fleet would implement containment measures. Nobody in the council chambers could explain what containment measures actually meant. They had never needed to use force before, but surely, they thought, 3,000 ships would be enough. On Earth, Kate Sullivan stood in her office at the Global Diplomatic Corps headquarters in Geneva. She was reading the preliminary reports from Captain Morrison with growing concern. Kate had spent her entire career preparing for first contact. She studied xenopsychology, learned 17 Earth languages as practice for alien communication, and developed protocols for peaceful interaction with unknown species. Nothing had prepared her for this. They are afraid of us, she said to her assistant, Peter Grant. Peter was her nephew, a young man fresh out of university who had jumped at the chance to work in xenodiplomacy. Can you blame them? Peter asked, pulling up footage on his tablet. Look at this. I found what they have been watching from our public broadcasts. Mixed martial arts, action movies, news coverage of wars. Even our nature documentaries are full of predators hunting prey. To species who evolved without violence, we must look like demons. Kate nodded slowly. We need to change their perception. Organize a cultural exchange. Invite council delegates to Earth. Show them our hospitals, our schools, our peace movements. They need to see that humans are capable of compassion. The first delegation arrived 2 weeks later. Zethara returned, this time with a full diplomatic team of 20 individuals from different council species. Kate met them at the newly built orbital station, deliberately avoiding bringing them to Earth's surface immediately. She wanted to ease them into human culture. The station tour went smoothly. Kate showed them human art galleries filled with paintings and sculptures. She took them to gardens where earth plants grew in controlled environments. She introduced them to children in the station's school who sang songs of welcome. The aliens began to relax. Perhaps humans were not so frightening after all. Then Kate made her second mistake. She agreed to bring them down to Earth's surface. The shuttle descended toward the landing pad in Geneva. The aliens pressed against the windows, watching Earth grow closer. Kate noticed they seemed nervous but attributed it to excitement. The moment the airlock opened, 3 of the aliens collapsed. Earth's gravity crushed them. Kate had forgotten that most council species evolved in gravity about half of Earth's normal pull. Medical teams rushed in with specialized support equipment. The delegation had brought gravity compensation devices, but the shock of actually feeling Earth's pull was too much for their bodies. Those who remained conscious stared at the sky with undisguised terror. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon. On their worlds, weather was gentle and predictable. The sight of a developing thunderstorm was like watching the apocalypse approach. "Perhaps we should stay inside," Kate suggested quickly. They moved to a conference center with reinforced walls and no windows. Kate had arranged for refreshments, carefully selected plant-based foods that council biology could process. The aliens ate nervously, watching every human movement with prey animal awareness. Dr. Ryan Foster arrived to give a presentation on human culture. Ryan was one of Earth's leading xenobiologists, a tall man in his 40s with wild brown hair and an enthusiasm that usually put people at ease. Today his energy seemed to frighten the aliens. "Welcome to Earth," he began cheerfully. "We are so excited to share our world with you." He clicked through a presentation showing human achievements: architecture, technology, medical advances, art and literature. He tried to emphasize humanity's peaceful accomplishments, but the aliens kept focusing on other details. Buildings designed to withstand earthquakes, medical technology developed to treat war injuries, literature that often featured conflict and resolution through struggle. Even human charity seemed to come from a place the aliens could not understand. Humans helped each other survive in a hostile world. Council species helped each other because cooperation was pleasant. The fundamental difference was philosophical. Council species avoided problems. Humans solved them, often through force. When Ryan showed footage of the International Space Station being built, one alien asked, "Why do you build structures in the void?" "It is dangerous." "Because it is there," Ryan answered, genuinely confused by the question. "Because we can. Because it helps us explore." The aliens exchanged worried glances. Humans did dangerous things simply because they wanted to. This was not logical. This was predatory thinking. Push boundaries. Take risks. Dominate the environment. That night, the delegation left Earth early. Kate watched their shuttle depart with a sinking feeling in her stomach. She had tried to show them humanity's best qualities. Instead, she had reinforced their worst fears. Admiral Lisa Grant sat in her office at Earth Defense Command, buried deep under the Rocky Mountains. The security briefing on her desk made her jaw clench. 3,000 council ships had begun moving. Their trajectory calculations pointed toward Sol's system. She activated her communication array and connected to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. General Kyle Patterson appeared on screen. His square jaw set in a grim expression. Kyle commanded Earth's Marine Forces, and he understood warfare better than anyone alive. "You have seen the intelligence reports," Lisa said without preamble. 3,000 ships, Kyle confirmed. "That is an invasion force." "Or a threat display," added Director Nicole Brooks, appearing on a second screen. Nicole ran Earth's Strategic Intelligence Agency. Her analysts had been working overtime since first contact. Council psychology suggests they use overwhelming numbers as intimidation. "They may not actually intend to fight, but they might," Lisa said, "and we need to be ready." Kyle, "Begin defensive preparations quietly. No public announcements yet. We do not want to provoke them further." "What about diplomacy?" Kyle asked. "Kate Sullivan still thinks she can negotiate. Let her try. But prepare for the worst." Over the next month, Kate made desperate attempts at communication. She sent messages explaining human intentions. She offered to limit military expansion. She proposed joint research projects and cultural exchanges. Every message went unanswered. The Council had made their decision. Fear overrode logic. Every species in Council space shared the same nightmare. Predators with starships. Deathworlders who conquered their own hostile planet and now looked to the stars. The Council leadership met in secret sessions. High Admiral Vornik, commander of the enforcement fleet, presented his strategy. Vornik was a Hylian, one of the few Council species with any military tradition. Even Admiral Lisa Grant stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching holographic displays that showed Council fleet movements throughout nearby space. The displays updated in real time, fed by sensor networks humanity had quietly deployed over the past month. 3,000 ships were converging on Sol system from multiple vectors. "They are not even trying to hide," commented General Kyle Patterson standing beside her. His Marine Corps uniform was crisp despite the late hour. "This is pure intimidation." "It is working on the civilian population," Lisa replied. News of the Council fleet had leaked 3 days ago. Panic spread across Earth. Stock markets crashed. People hoarded supplies. Some religious groups proclaimed the end times. The president wants to address the public tomorrow. And say what? That we are about to be invaded by peaceful aliens who are afraid of us? Lisa allowed herself a thin smile. Something like that. Director Nicole Brooks entered the command center carrying a tablet. Her face showed the exhaustion of someone who had not slept properly in weeks. Latest intelligence summary. The Council fleet is 3 days out at current speed. They have sent no communication, no warnings, nothing. They are committed. What about their formation? Lisa asked. Textbook intimidation pattern, Nicole said, pulling up tactical displays. Broad front, maximum visibility. Ships spread to appear larger. If we tried this formation in actual combat, we would be torn apart. There are gaps in their coverage you could fly a battlecruiser through. Kyle studied the display. They do not expect resistance. They think we will see their numbers and surrender immediately. Will we? Nicole asked quietly. Lisa turned to face her. Do you want to live in a cage? Because that is what they are offering. Surrender our weapons, accept their oversight, never leave our system again. We would be prisoners on our own world. But we would be alive, Nicole countered. 3,000 ships, Lisa. We have maybe 300 combat-capable vessels if we count every patrol boat and cargo hauler with weapons. The math does not work. The math is not the point, Lisa said. Kate Sullivan thinks she can still negotiate. I am giving her every chance. But if they force this fight, we will show them what Deathworlders can do. She activated the command network, connecting to military installations across Sol system. Activate Predator mode protocols. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Across Earth and throughout human colonies, the message was received. Predator mode was humanity's contingency plan for existential threats. It was everything humans learned from thousands of years of warfare, distilled into a military doctrine that would terrify any species that understood what it meant. Captain Jake Morrison received the activation order aboard the USS Vigilance, currently docked at the Mars orbital shipyards. The ship had been undergoing repairs, but those were abandoned now. Every available vessel was being pressed into service. Ben, what is our status? Jake asked his tactical officer. Ben Carter checked his displays. Weapons at 90%. Shields fully charged. Point defense systems online. We can fight, sir. Chris Hayes looked up from communications. Captain, I am receiving messages from civilian vessels requesting protection. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining ships. Everyone is scared. Tell them to move toward Earth or Mars, Jake ordered. Get behind our defensive perimeter. Amy, can we arm civilian vessels? Chief Engineer Amy Walsh pulled up specifications on her console. Some of them. The bigger cargo haulers can mount missile pods. It will not make them warships, but they can contribute. Jake nodded. This was pure human thinking. When threatened, use everything available, improvise, adapt, overcome. These were concepts. Council species did not seem to understand. The Vigilance undocked and moved to join the defensive fleet assembling near Mars. Jake watched his tactical display fill with friendly contacts. Frigates, destroyers, a handful of cruisers, and 2 battleships that were Earth's pride. Against 3,000 Council vessels, it looked pathetically inadequate. But numbers were not everything. Jake had read Ryan Foster's analysis of Council technology. Their shields were strong, but their weapons were weak. More importantly, their tactics were predictable. They had not fought a real war in thousands of years. Humans had stopped fighting each other barely 15 years ago. Every officer in Earth's fleet had combat experience. High Admiral Vornek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Harmony. The massive vessel was over 2 kilometers long, designed as a moving palace for diplomatic missions. It had never fired its weapons in anger. None of the 3,000 ships in his fleet had. We are approaching the edge of the human system, reported his navigation officer. All ships report ready. Vornek felt his breathing quicken. This was not fear, he told himself. This was anticipation. The humans would see their fleet and understand. Resistance was impossible. They would negotiate surrender. His communications officer received an incoming message. Admiral, we are being hailed by the human vessel Vigilance. Audio only. Accept it, Vornek ordered. Captain Morrison's voice came through the speakers. Council Fleet, this is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth Defense. You are entering Sol system without authorization. State your intentions. This is High Admiral Vornek. We are here to deliver an ultimatum to humanity. You will surrender all military vessels and accept Council oversight, or face containment measures. There was a pause. Then Morrison spoke again, his voice calm. Admiral, you are making a mistake. We do not want war, but we will not surrender. Turn your fleet around and we can still negotiate. Negotiation time has ended, Vornek replied. You have violated every principle of civilized behavior. You are predators with weapons. The Council cannot allow you to threaten peaceful species. Surrender now. I see, Morrison said. Then you are choosing war. So be it. The connection cut. Vornek felt a moment of doubt. The human captain had sounded too calm, too confident. But surely that was just posturing. They had to see the impossibility of their situation. Continue advance, he ordered. All ships maintain formation. We will show them the strength of unity. On the Vigilance, Jake turned to his crew. Battle stations. Execute Pattern Delta 3. Inform Admiral Grant we are engaging. Pattern Delta 3 confirmed, Ben said. All ships acknowledge. Chris looked nervous. Captain, what is Pattern Delta 3? Jake smiled grimly. We are going to teach them that human military doctrine was not written by herbivores. The human fleet began to move, but not in the way Vornek expected. Instead of forming a defensive line, the ships scattered. They broke into small groups and accelerated in different directions. Within minutes, the organized human defense dissolved into chaos. What are they doing? Vornek asked his tactical officer. I do not understand, Admiral. They are separating. This makes no strategic sense. They are dividing their forces. Vornek felt relief. Perhaps the humans were not so clever after all. Maintain formation. We will surround their scattered vessels and force surrender. The Council fleet pushed deeper into Sol system. Their 3,000 ships moved in their intimidating wall formation, shields glowing as they advanced. They were approaching Jupiter orbit when the first attack came. The human vessels had not scattered randomly. They had positioned themselves in ambush locations throughout the asteroid belt and near gas giant moons. When the Council fleet came into range, the humans struck from multiple directions simultaneously. The Vigilance led a squadron of 6 frigates that appeared from behind Jupiter's largest moon. They fired missiles from maximum range, then immediately changed course. The missiles were not like Council weapons. They did not aim to disable. They aimed to destroy. The first Council ship died in a flash of light. Its shields held against the initial impacts, but human missiles came in waves. The second wave hit while shields were still recovering. The third wave punched through and turned the ship's reactor into a miniature sun. Vornek watched in horror as 3 more ships died in the first 30 seconds. Return fire. Destroy those ships! But the human vessels were already gone, accelerating away at speeds that should have been impossible. Council ships were fast, but they were designed for comfortable travel. Human ships were designed by a species that raced each other for entertainment. Speed was survival. The Council fleet tried to reorganize, but more human squadrons struck from different angles. A group of destroyers came from the asteroid belt, fired their weapons and vanished back into the rocks. A pair of cruisers appeared from behind a gas giant, launched a devastating barrage, and retreated before the Council could respond. Kate Sullivan watched the battle unfold from Earth Defense Command, her heart sinking. She had tried so hard to prevent this. Now people were dying. Ships were exploding. Her worst nightmare was coming true. Can we stop this? She asked Lisa. The Admiral shook her head. Not now. The Council made their choice. We are just responding to it. By killing them? By surviving, Lisa said firmly. Look at the tactical display, Kate. They came here with 3,000 ships to force us into submission. Did you expect us to simply accept that? Kate could not answer. She understood Lisa's position, but she also understood what this meant for future relations. Every destroyed Council ship was more proof that humans were monsters. Every dead Council. High Admiral Vornek sat in his darkened quarters aboard the Eternal Harmony, staring at damage reports he could barely comprehend. 147 ships destroyed. Another 63 damaged beyond immediate repair. Thousands of crew members dead. All in a single engagement against a force that should have been insignificant. The Council emergency transmission came through at what humans would call 3 in the morning. High Chancellor Vornal's face appeared on the screen, his features drawn with stress. "Report, Admiral." Vornek forced himself to sit straight. "The humans have rejected our ultimatum. They engaged our fleet with advanced tactics and superior weaponry. We were forced to retreat and regroup." "Retreat?" Vornal's voice cracked slightly. "We sent 3,000 ships. How could you possibly need to retreat?" "You do not understand," Vornek said, his voice hollow. "Nothing in our simulations prepared us for this. They fight like nothing we have ever encountered. They use the environment as a weapon. They coordinate with precision we cannot match. Our shields hold for a time, but their weapons are designed to kill, not disable. Every shot is meant to destroy completely." "Then use our numbers," Vornal insisted. "Surround them. Overwhelm them. We tried that. They are faster than us. They refuse to be surrounded. They strike from unexpected angles and retreat before we can respond. High Chancellor, we are fighting apex predators who have been perfecting the art of war for thousands of years. Our enforcement fleet was never meant for this kind of combat." There was a long silence. Finally, Vornal spoke. "The Council is divided. Some wish to retreat entirely. Others demand we continue until the humans are contained. I need more time to build consensus." "Can you hold position?" Vornek looked at his tactical display. The human fleet was not pursuing. They seemed content to defend their system. "Yes, but if we attack again, we need a different strategy." "Then develop one. We cannot let predators dictate terms to the civilized galaxy." The transmission ended. Vornek pulled up all available data on human military history. What he read made his blood run cold. Humans had fought each other for their entire recorded history. They developed tactics for every terrain, every situation. They studied war the way Council species studied art. They had military academies that trained officers in strategy and tactics. They had entire philosophies built around the concept of warfare. The Council had none of this. Their enforcement fleet existed to look impressive. The idea of actually using it in sustained combat had never been seriously considered. Aboard the Vigilance, Jake Morrison held a strategy meeting with his senior officers. The holographic display showed the Council fleet's current position, about 1 million kilometers from Jupiter. "They are staying put," Ben Carter reported. "Looks like they are repairing damage and regrouping." "Good," Jake said. "That gives us time to resupply." "Amy, what is our munition status?" Amy pulled up inventory screens. "We expended 62% of our missiles. We can rearm from stockpiles at Mars, but it will take time. The whole fleet is in similar condition. We hit them hard, but we cannot sustain that level of combat for much longer." Chris Hayes looked worried. "What if they attack again before we are ready?" "Then we improvise," Jake said. "But I do not think they will. We hurt them badly. They need time to figure out what went wrong." "What did go wrong?" asked Commander Greg Hunt, captain of the destroyer Relentless. He had joined via video link. "From their perspective, I mean. They had overwhelming numbers. They had overwhelming numbers of the wrong ships using the wrong tactics," Jake explained. "Think about it. Their entire civilization is built on conflict avoidance. They never developed real military doctrine because they never needed it. They thought showing up with 3,000 ships would be enough." "It should have been enough," Greg admitted. "If we fought the way they expected. Stand in a line, exchange fire until one side gives up. But we are humans. We do not fight fair," Jake smiled grimly. "Fair fights are for sports. This is war. We use every advantage we have." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Grant met with the civilian leadership. The president of the United Earth Government, Sandra Mitchell, looked exhausted. She was a career diplomat who had spent years building international cooperation. War was the last thing she wanted. "Tell me we can end this," Sandra said. "We won the first engagement," Lisa replied. "But they still have almost 3,000 ships. We have maybe 280 combat-capable vessels, and we are low on ammunition. If they press the attack, we will hurt them badly. But they will eventually overwhelm us through attrition. Then what do? "We change the equation," said Director Nicole Brooks. She pulled up intelligence reports. "The Council fleet is not designed for sustained combat. They need supply lines, food, spare parts, fuel. They expected a quick surrender, not a prolonged conflict. If we disrupt their logistics, we can force them to withdraw without destroying their entire fleet." General Kyle Patterson nodded. Hit-and-run attacks on their supply vessels. Force them to either protect their logistics or maintain their battle formation. They cannot do both effectively. That means expanding the combat zone, Sandra said. Taking the fight into Council space. Not into their space, Nicole corrected. But into the neutral zones between us. Their supply convoys have to travel through several systems to reach their fleet. We can hit them there. Kate Sullivan, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. If we do this, we escalate. Every attack makes peace harder to achieve. Peace? Kyle said sharply. They came here to conquer us. Where is the peace in that? They came here because they are afraid, Kate countered. Everything we do that confirms their fears makes this worse. We need to show them we can be reasonable. We showed them we can defend ourselves, Lisa said firmly. That is not unreasonable. That is survival. But Kate has a point. We need to calibrate our response. Hit hard enough to force them back, but not so hard that we make permanent enemies. Sandra made the decision. Proceed with the logistics interdiction plan. But no attacks on civilian vessels. Military targets only. And we keep trying diplomatic channels. Kate, you keep working on opening communication. Over the next 2 weeks, human strategy unfolded with ruthless efficiency. Small squadrons of human ships struck at Council supply convoys in neutral systems. They avoided civilian vessels as ordered, but military transports were fair game. Captain Amy Walsh commanded one such mission aboard a retrofitted cargo hauler called the Defiant. The ship had been a simple freight transport 3 months ago. Now it carried missile pods and a crew of 40 volunteers. Target acquired, reported her tactical officer, a former merchant marine named Alex Price. Council supply convoy, 6 transport vessels with 2 escort frigates. Any civilian signatures? Amy asked. Negative. All military transponders. Then we are clear to engage. Launch missiles, pattern beta. Hit the escorts first, then the transports. The Defiant fired from long range and immediately began evasive maneuvers. The missiles streaked toward the Council convoy. The escort frigates detected the launch and raised shields, but they were too slow. Human missiles moved faster than Council weapons officers had trained for. Both escorts died in the first salvo. The transport vessels tried to scatter, but they were not designed for combat maneuvers. 3 more missiles ended the threat. The convoy was destroyed in under 2 minutes. Any survivors? Amy asked, reading escape pods from one of the transports. No hostile action. Good. Mark their position and transmit it to Council frequencies. Let them recover their people. Set course for home. The Defiant jumped away, leaving debris and rescue beacons behind. It was efficient, clean, and absolutely terrifying for the Council forces. The humans were not just defending their system anymore. They were taking the offensive. High Admiral Vornek received reports of convoy losses with growing despair. 7 convoys destroyed in 3 days. His fleet could fight for maybe another week before they ran out of critical supplies. He sent urgent requests to the Council for reinforcements and additional logistics support. The Council's response was not what he expected. High Chancellor Vornal appeared on screen looking older than before. The Council is divided, Admiral. Half the species want to withdraw. They say the cost is too high. Others demand we bring more ships, escalate the conflict. We are deadlocked. What are your orders? Vornek asked. I have no orders. The Council cannot reach consensus. Some species are threatening to leave the Council entirely if we continue the war. Others are threatening to leave if we do not. Vornek understood. The Council was breaking apart. In 12,000 years of peaceful cooperation, they had never faced a problem they could not solve through consensus. The human crisis was tearing apart the foundation of galactic civilization. I need to know if you will support a continued offensive, Vornek said. If not, I should withdraw before we lose more lives. Hold your position, Vornal said finally. Give us time. Perhaps there is still a diplomatic solution. But Vornek saw the truth in the Chancellor's eyes. The Council had no solution. They had poked a predator and gotten bitten. Now they did not know whether to run or fight. Kate Sullivan worked tirelessly to open communication channels. She sent hundreds of messages to Council space. Most went unanswered. But High Admiral Vornek floated in the zero gravity of his damaged quarters, thinking about prey and predators. His entire life he had been taught that violence was the ultimate failure of civilization. The Council existed because species chose cooperation over conflict. Yet here he was, his flagship disabled, his fleet bloodied, facing beings who excelled at violence but chose to spare him. The rescue ships arrived within hours. Council vessels swarmed the Eternal Harmony, evacuating wounded crew and beginning repairs. Vornek transferred his command to a smaller ship while engineers assessed the damage. They told him the flagship would need weeks of work before it could fly again. He composed a message to the council, choosing his words carefully. What he said now would determine whether this war continued or ended. High Chancellor Vorn All, I must report that my assessment of the humans was incomplete. They are indeed predators. But I now understand that predators are not mindless killers. They are strategic thinkers who choose when to attack and when to show mercy. The humans disabled my flagship when they could have easily destroyed it. They spared my life and the lives of my crew. This was a deliberate choice, not an accident. I request permission to open direct negotiations. The response took 6 hours to arrive. When Vornal's face appeared on screen, the High Chancellor looked like he had aged years and weeks. The Council has been debating for days. Some species want to send 50,000 ships. Others want to surrender and hope for mercy. A few wise voices suggest we should have listened to our xenobiologists from the beginning. Admiral, you have permission to negotiate, but understand that whatever terms you agree to will bind the entire Council. Choose carefully. Vornek sent a tight beam communication to the USS Vigilance. Captain Morrison, this is High Admiral Vornek. I request a meeting under truce conditions. I believe we have much to discuss. Jake Morrison sat in his ready room, reading the message for the 3rd time. He forwarded it to Admiral Lisa Grant and waited for her response. It came within minutes. Meet with him. Kate Sullivan will join you as diplomatic representative. Find out what they want. But Jake, be careful. This could be a trap. Understood, Admiral. The meeting location was neutral ground, a small ice moon orbiting Saturn. Both sides sent minimal security. Jake brought Ben Carter and Kate Sullivan. Vornek arrived with Mira and 2 guards who looked uncomfortable in the low gravity. They met in a prefabricated shelter that humans had erected for the occasion. The interior was warm and well lit, with a table between the 2 parties. Jake noticed that Vornek moved slowly, carefully like someone who had been injured. Thank you for coming, Vornek said through his translator. I will be direct. The Council does not know how to end this war. We are herbivores, prey species. When we feel threatened, our instinct is to flee or freeze. But we built a civilization on the principle that fleeing is shameful and freezing is useless, so we tried to appear strong. We sent 3,000 ships because we thought numbers would intimidate you. It did not work, Jake said simply. No, because you are predators. You do not respond to intimidation the way we do. You respond by showing your own strength, by proving you are more dangerous than the threat facing you. Vornek paused. I have studied human military history these past days. You have a saying. The best defense is a good offense. This philosophy is alien to us, but I see now it is not cruelty. It is practicality from your perspective. Kate leaned forward. High Admiral, we never wanted this war. We still do not want it. What will it take for peace? Vornek looked at her with his large eyes. Honesty. The Council feared you because we did not understand you. We saw predators and assumed the worst. We need to understand that humans can choose peace even when violence is an option. We have been choosing peace, Kate said. We could have destroyed your entire fleet multiple times. We defended our home, nothing more. I know that now, but the Council needs to know it too. They need to see humans as something other than monsters. Jake considered this. What are you proposing? A new relationship. Not the ultimatum we foolishly tried to impose. A genuine partnership. The Council has technology and knowledge. Humanity has military expertise and a perspective we lack. Together we could build something neither could achieve alone. It sounded almost too good to be true. Jake glanced at Kate, who nodded slightly. She had been pushing for this outcome all along. We would need specific terms, Jake said. Humans will not accept restrictions on our sovereignty or our right to explore space. And the Council will not accept being conquered or intimidated, Vornek replied. But perhaps we can find middle ground. What if humanity joined the Council not as subjects but as what we might call guardian species? You would provide security expertise, train our forces in defensive tactics, help us understand military strategy. In exchange, you gain access to our technology, our trade networks, our scientific knowledge. Kate's eyes lit up. This was close to her dream scenario. The Council would accept humans as equals? The Council would accept humans as different, Vornek said. We cannot make you into herbivores. You cannot stop being predators. but we can learn to work together if both sides try to understand each other. The negotiations continued for hours. Jake called in Dr. Ryan Foster via video link to discuss technology exchange. General Kyle Patterson joined to outline what military training might look like. Director Nicole Brooks participated to ensure Earth's security concerns were addressed. Slowly, a framework emerged. Humans would establish what they called the Joint Defense Initiative. Military advisors would train council species in basic defensive tactics and strategic thinking. In exchange, council scientists would share their advanced energy systems, medical technology, and faster-than-light navigation techniques. There would be no restrictions on human expansion into space. But humans would agree to respect council territorial boundaries and follow basic diplomatic protocols. The council would officially recognize Earth as a sovereign system with the same rights as any council member world. Most importantly, both sides agreed to establish cultural exchange programs. Council citizens would visit Earth to learn about human society. Humans would travel to council worlds to understand their culture. Education would replace fear. When they finally drafted an agreement, Jake read through it carefully. It was not perfect. There would be arguments and misunderstandings ahead, but it was a foundation for peace. "I need to take this to my superiors," Jake said, "but I think we can make this work." "As do I," Vornak replied. "It will take time for the council to fully accept this. Many species are still afraid. But fear driven by ignorance can be overcome with knowledge." They shook hands, human and alien, predator and prey, finding common ground in a galaxy that suddenly seemed less divided. The news reached Earth within hours. Admiral Lisa Grant addressed the planetary population in a broadcast that was watched by billions. "For weeks we have faced the threat of war with the Galactic Council. Today I am pleased to announce that threat has ended. Not through conquest but through understanding. We have negotiated a peace that respects both human sovereignty and council security. We will join the galactic community not as conquerors or subjects but as partners. This is the beginning of a new era for humanity." The celebrations were cautious at first. People had been preparing for war. Suddenly they had peace instead, and it took time to adjust. But as details of the agreement became public, hope began to replace fear. Kate Sullivan found herself unexpectedly emotional as she watched the broadcasts. She had spent years preparing for first contact, dreaming of the moment when humanity would join a galactic civilization. The path had been harder than she imagined, but they had arrived at the destination. On Sanctuary Prime, the council chambers were in turmoil again, but this time the mood was different. Representatives who had demanded war now pushed for cooperation. Species that had threatened to leave the council now saw a path forward. High Chancellor Vornal addressed the assembly. "We made mistakes. We allowed fear to guide us instead of wisdom. We assumed that because humans were different, they must be dangerous. We learned a hard lesson. Different does not mean enemy, and strength does not equal cruelty. I propose we ratify the agreement with Earth and establish humanity as our first guardian species." The vote was not unanimous. Some species remained skeptical, but a clear majority supported the new arrangement. The age of council isolation was ending. The age of human council cooperation was beginning. Over the following months, the Joint Defense Initiative took shape. General Kyle Patterson established training facilities on 3 council worlds. His instructors taught basic tactical thinking to council military personnel who had never seriously studied warfare. The training was eye-opening for both sides. Council species struggled with concepts that seemed obvious to humans: flanking maneuvers, concentration of force, tactical flexibility. These ideas required a predator mindset that herbivores found difficult to adopt, but they learned. Slowly, carefully, they began to understand that military thinking was not about loving violence. It was about preparation and deterrence. Being ready to defend themselves made war less likely, not more. Captain Jake Morrison found himself commanding a mixed fleet of human,